Pramo ato yama atiefo nyina hama kwa baba TV XYZ Power FM and afi Radio XYZ so and then so nyame adom ensam no ebiasisi eno na semufo abone bede aso no so kroje de amaya yeso ye de ebabetumanim Kasiebo nam stations ahodo bebre so ewo oman Ghana mukodum aya framante ma meka se no Water Power 94.1 ekutemu ho saso na Global FM ho Sharp FM takrade ensroma won krankwanta Boom FM wo jase kanjinya me ewo sampa nananom wo hafugo so West and Radio wala Meleke FM ewo Kpazangligi FM Bol Rich FM enso ewo Asemfo so saso na Trinity enso ekutem de denden ewo Bongo so High Radio ewo Beche Wempan Sampa Mondi FM enso ewo Pusiga Oti Radio ewo Dambai Bono FM sunyane na Face Sunset Radio enso ewo Sehwi yo sunyansa po FM ekutem de denden wo Shama ne mpatemu saso na tese Atom Local FM enso ewo asa setre ansam no amanfo ebetie bi ewo Vice Radio ni TV enso ebutu donkwa ofia amude omontoma abanchire die mu Kasiebo no amofa bi ato apete adu akire na temamfu a ewo akire nso no enye bi atie okopiem awa amononea na se Apple State FM of Virginia USA tune in enso aye Power 979 Daisy Radio enso ekutem ewo weekly adamfapa ewo UK and afi OPD enso ekutemu ewo UK Loud Silence Television ewo America and afi oman Ghana manso adehye no ebetie mu online eye Radio XM online saso na eye my xyzonline.com nsam no ye kruchiri ni nyina edi egu a Facebook Power 979 TV XYZ and afi Radio XYZ 93.1 nsam no ubetie bi ewo saso na information centers ahodo ebreso ekuta Kasiebo mu a yede ebremo ewia brain sama yabone bede ede ebrem no edoso namum ye edi akotene ewo mu no ebi ene say Oman Ghana ban dia todwa ya wo chese akwanya ya ye boato ho ede amama se ne be ya odo ho be hye dwumadi ahodo nyina da emu no ya de ba ko da aban akoma prono so saso ana aban so akire eye dwumadi ahodo ayade aboa sebe na global development se eye Ghana research no ebetimi akonkan ede amaye na akronfo tatwia moa makomako be ye du ya wo mabokro no a ye tuo da so sabre posi sadom ne kire se wo musa asomo pachi saso ana PURC ade atodwa kirem se nyinam kane abono omatum kakra percentage na he na omode etoso na senior lecturer ba kwa no ebo nwoma pa e wo my Ghana msa breji tekefo wa kukuru wom edoma kopiem wo court adentia saso anene Ghana mampanyi abo justice bafo boni edin se mpanyimfo sone no so nhwanimu se adwuma se chief justice no obetimi aya na honsam obeti Kasiebo yi emu apa dentra east mansi no emu mrashebedwani ojamade hye ho kire se ye kansu papa se no woden hya hodo egu akom se ne beya ne manfo no ebenya bi anom saso ana sebena ashenkafo dwumedie betimi akototin enti namsayo so emeso kopiemu ewo afumantema enche bia no DVLA abamane so mebie atenaye ema dwumedie no etimi akoso oshodo ede amatimemufo a ewo ho Ghana de shima mansam no afoforo bi ka wenhu na hwe ya bone bedede beso se prem to break Kasiebo TV XYZ so edwachi no Radio XYZ na Power 97.9 FM so yemfa se de wo mu no emanyumaku a wo mo aso yasene ewo Kasiebo emo liquid capsules eye medimosis eba center for na akofa dia ba wo chese wunya liquid capsules na so memene a ebo manipadua no edi afusani yie pa ebo ma metabolism no ejina ne nan eso enu achikura no udidi e wo aduane no etimi yam yie ewo nipadua no emu ofa liquid capsules na so memene a ebeboa ma nipadua no bibiara etimi agina brane ede amaw ebesa support liver no kidney no amaniema etimi agina na so nti uboramo ewo pharmacy shop bi ebe wa ubenya liquid capsules bia to dem ni do so pomo no na wa friend medimosis penifo eye 0244 068447 0244 068447 ofra wo beje wo so na wu pensu papa no a eno an X natural mineral water se
wo ye ye wo to projumade biara enso papa ya obenya e dia service ananse mpo wa ufie upe bia no a ex natural mineral water na ye kanfo e dia ma we ye nsu a efi bi poni mu pe ye dia fa fidie mu asonso enti efi ni keka bia nim onya bi na se odo no a ebo ma nipadua no so enya ahoden mapa uboram wo meko shop bia mu supermarket bia mu a ubenya bia to na XYZ Broadcasting Limited oba ye dwuma kwai mu adodo bia opa bia no ubenya anase ubefre enhuman eye 0596273546 and 0596273547 X natural mineral water na was simply natural solar natural clinic was wa pomuden eda wo makoma proso enti mfa yade ne ntena ho de akoso abudi akini ache na wunya no aduro no solar kefo kire se wo mu adura ba wo de bete ne te ede ama yade ne kwa enya de abeba bi o ti se ye o kidney no ene wanya ha e wo ho liver no anase bia oba be ma mo pa wo machia bre munya bia solar kefo se wo ma bie kwan na ma bra wo mo de aduro be kan wo benya oba ni bi e de ato sere so enu achi no wo ho na se tataya wo mo onuro e wo ho a wo de ebe ma laboratory test ahodo ni nyina so wono mu eye bi o kon wa yira kwan anamu chemu bi abromidie so a na wa frɛ 0553932631 0553932631 ofra solar natural clinic wono mu ebejo so nyima kwendo mo dosto pa akire yi wo beti wo nyina enka wo ma daro ma hwei wo mo na chia brei ho eka Facebook no so ye power 979 FM TVXYZ and afei radio XYZ 93.1 ya na wodo comment na to one like na wa share e de amayen ya ni a ya jepenie ensum Kasiebo emu no edi ameje so da chema akosia oforiwa amanfo awia imene
akwiya krantema efe ye besra na ya jebra na kasia ne nsima om nyina no ya de atoho na ya hyase ewo omampanyi atena ye esane saudi nsɛm emu ohwam de atodwa ama wiase afa na nyina omampanyi aboanan emetse dwumadi a wato din eye Global Development Research Initiative no wada no adie na dwumadi no ase na odi todwa akyerem sɛ sa wo hwɛ eba apomudin sa ho nsɛm a anya bi a kyɛ sɛ eye health crisis nko a na kyɛ sɛ wiase afa na nyina ye wo namum no eba eye social na fe eye economic sɛ eye equity a ne nyina no se eyade a ekoso edi etia wiase afa na nyina enti wasre passage se wenu eye bia ya wo se ebma nyina no yetimi agina pempen so ase bia se nneoma nkoyi wapomodon nsem a se mbo yenya efi wiase afa na nyina se bia America no ne ade no sempo etutwa na epem ho a yebetimi agina na yetimi akwanim ewo ho enti o kyerem se wenu eyade a se wiase afa na nyina no yetimi akwanim o de sansem atudwa wombra na se okasa ewo United Nations General Assembly de to so eye aduawatwe emu na no eno kyerem se ni nyina no eyade ohwa na se sustainable development goals se ebewie eye 2030 na se enche bia ebewie anesa na ebe awie na edien enabiman aka no ye ede aboa nsema Ghana mpanyi ede tudwa ewo Accra research ni mu no moma yentie bi.
MDGs and SDGs have been the lodestar of global ambition. The MDGs lifted over 1 billion people out of poverty. The SDGs galvanized unprecedented cooperation. However, the UN's own 2023 report indicates that fewer than half of the 169 SDG targets are on track. In health, in inequality, and in fiscal resilience, the situation is particularly dire. The temptation will be to prepare another catalog of partnership global targeting. ODA is declining, and there's reportedly an overall 40% reduction in worldwide humanitarian assistance. We need to strategize. The world needs a reset, a re-engineering of the very logic of development itself. And this is the vision of the Accra Reset, to rebuild global development around sovereignty, workability, and shared value, to make it possible to co-invest, co-design, and co-create for shared priorities. Health, along the most aid-dependent sector, is our proof of concept. Through the sustained framework, the 4D innovations platforms such as Panabios, Prosper, and the African Continental Free Trade Area Hub, now augmented by the Health Investment Multiplier and Synergy tools, along with a new global health architecture and governance framework, we're pioneering models that move from dependency to sovereignty. Already more than $1 billion in reset-compatible pledges from African development finance institutions and private banks have been aligned with a new approach through the pooled pledge and deal rooms arrangements. And while we launch this reset today, let us acknowledge that others have already been at work. From President Paul Kagame's leadership under the Lusaka Agenda to the Africa CDC and the African Medicines Agency, proving that sovereignty-led models are not only possible, but practical. Working together will not only sustain these gains, but also expand them and utilize them to protect the well-being of our people.
President Mama
and is only the beginning.
Yatenin Kay na way a jumedian smody to ja our UN Assembly a jumediano ase a be an amotin and watchino or sanso a can AC sudia says Sausha Nessa imprempre party Bacase Bia said the systems in a yajumano Yaminim and Sacrab Mo said to me na yet me can't see any bois Sabene said Menano a betimi acronym.
But health is only the beginning. Africa is only our starting point. The reset looks beyond today's crisis and identifies new pivots of growth: biodiversity, climate resilience, nutrition, and empowerment economies. These are not only moral imperatives, but trillion-dollar opportunities for inclusive, climate-positive prosperity. The IMF estimates that emerging markets and developing economies will require $2.5 trillion annually in climate finance by 2030. Without new governance, business finance models, these needs will remain unmet. And so we must move from vision to operating models. The reset is anchored on three fundamental shifts. The first is a mindset shift. This is needed, recognizing that we live in an era of unpredictability. The post-war multilateral era is being ripped apart. It appears we must prepare for a period of global turbulence. The second is a focus shift, moving from beyond crafting new lists of global goals to building executable business models for coalitions, syndicates, and platforms that deliver. And the third is a reality shift, accepting that diverse, even contradictory interests are now a permanent feature of our system. And turning these very tensions into the fuel for pragmatic cooperation and mutual investment is imperative. This new model demands resource multiplication and not rationing. Instead of limiting resilience, let us multiply it. Instead of setting new spending targets, let us measure the additional value that health, climate resilience, and food security can contribute to the global economy.
Now we and summer Ghana Penya Aditujah ewo eye Jumedia se omonia brehwe se be na pomdon sam ni asetenam ye den so no ebetimi akoso.
Na efa United Nations Shamudie ya ekoso no nam so amanei no what the 4th World Conference on Women Aisha so we Shamudie abribia no womo de hyaso na womo etoato adwene efa ema asetena mu yiedie eho be ye mfrihye duasani asa adwumadie no abribia no United Nations mpanifo kan otikuru ho a womo ehwe adwene ema eyiedie eho na wo sa adwumadie no ase no na obo man Ghana mu osofo ye ohwe ma mofra yiedie dada bo enkan koso wodbonyamfo Agnes na momolate wogina simpie so a wode asodwa ya wo kyese ene ubo man Ghana mu a ye ka ema fa hodie ne mpo no se ye bo kwanya to ho ma ede wo ho ahye dwumadi ahodo emu no eyade ba ko ya da ban yakoma proso pa ene policies ahodo na ban betena so no wode agu akwam wo hwese obepeja ma na ye ka gender equality no a ye bibia no a ye de ma atimi ahyem wo se ebre kwa animo no aba ne ye hyehyɛ ahodo bebre e de ama ma e wo mai emu se ne be ya yasetenam yedie no ebetimi akonkan.
30 years ago, the world adopted the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action It was a bold vision that affirmed a truth, a simple truth, that the advancement of women and girls is essential for peace, justice, and sustainable development. Today, as we commemorate this milestone, we accelerate the progress that has been made, but are also reminded that the journey to full equality is not yet complete. For Ghana, this commemoration carries special significance. It coincides with the 50th anniversary of our national machinery of women, which has been central in advancing women's empowerment in our country. In January this year, Ghana's first female vice president was sworn in. This is a breakthrough moment that reflects our determination to ensure women's voices are heard at the highest level of governance. Over the years, Ghana has continued to strengthen its legal and policy framework. We enacted the Affirmative Action Act in 2024 and adopted a new gender policy that will guide our efforts from 2025 to 2035. We have reinforced protection systems through the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit of the Ghana Police Service. Programs such as the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty, the School Feeding Program, and microfinance, small loan centers support women entrepreneurs, opening doors for women across communities. Plans are also underway to establish a Women's Development Bank that will expand financial inclusion and provide affordable credit to strengthen economic independence of women, particularly those in underserved areas. Madam President, the Beijing Declaration was never meant to be a promise written on paper. It was and remains a call to action. To mark the 30 years is not simply to look back with pride. It is to recommit with urgency. Our task now is to remove the remaining barriers, give women and girls equal voices and opportunity to ensure that progress we've made are irreversible. This commemoration must be more than remembrance. It must be renewal and it must be action, because when women rise,
Way for ya about my Ghana mo no NHM ma mo fra ye die dada brabo enkan koso ne ma ebambo eso ormonyamfo Agnes na momo latte.
Yanto asuna yanko aya ensa froswa na seneno Public Utilities Regulatory Commission ade atudwa na wobo Ghana fo nyina mane se omo akwatesena sadia eye bosome miense bia omo ye no oso omo contract na review ekoso eninti omo ayi no omo koye no mo se hu behia se nyinam kanea adwumako no ombetimi epeja ebuonum ade amom eninti ene no sadia eye consumer bia etua buo no omo de eye 1.14% ade account ese buo no etimi akwaso nti ya aduma na se October bosom de di kan no na sa enhya ufro ya PURC aye no ebe sha se aye adwuma se okoto nyinam kan na se aboa no se bi etimi aka ho we aye nsem esom de aba abonten a eye acting executive secretary edema commission no owura eye Shafik Suleiman ensa sha se na ochem sa wo hwa na se commission etena se no mu nkompo no mu se ne no sadia eye Ghana sedi no aye no wo so mtimi ehwe omso mu gina eye cedi ni dollar relation so anase exchange rate so enom de sanso ana domestic inflation ni nyina aka waje se ni nyina no omaka aka tata ni emum se ehun benya som de 1.14% ebeka enyinam kanea eboa no ehum nam se ba eye ensu se bi eboa no ebeka ho anom se da bi ensu ni de ba bi a wo no saa ana ewo se gina se nya de a peso akura no omode beka ho na se bi eboa no etimi akosoro enti no eye dia wo se Ghana fo nyina no yani ahwe kwanse fiti October bosomi de edika no ekono enyinam kane abo no ebiba beka ho eniti kwa na esika no watimi adikakra nso aka ho na atimi aboa wo
So ansem so na ya bawramu efa bambomu ensem na enei IGP Yera Christian Tete Yohonu wode atudwa wabre ya onensem twefo edi ehyemu ya wo kyese wo man Ghana posisa dom no wo mo ebo homodene ye ka man Ghana bambo se ne be ya ne titiriu akronfo remfo a wonde wo so won pe adwuma bi nye ne da wo mo so mbebo kro no e wo man emu no wo mo atimi atu wo mo asesa ene me ka sai no maku be ye du ya wo mo ya kromfo aposifo ensa aso won mo paachi na saa kromfo dui police sadom na eba ma ne ya IGP kire se wo mo ya kromfo bi a o my Ghana ye ka sika krabia hodo ye rural banks ahodo a ho titiru pa ena ya na wo mo do mani kire ekokobọ kro no na operations ahodo a police sadom ne ye no ena akofa we nyina ba sabre no emrantie dui ya mo ya kromfo yi no aposifo ensa timi aso wonum emo na wo kire se operations no wo mo ye bi ewo santemantam no emo emfimfi mantam na fe so kopiem osunya ne mpatamu ho nso wo mo bowura ho na na kan obi ama wo mo atimi ache safoem na bre ya yewra Christian tete yohunu edina simpie so a wo kasa no eno wo kye se emrantie ebi ene akwasi agei woni asabre wonsa so mo paachi no akwasi agei eka ho ena David Obobi Samuel akwasi Jan wo mo ni mrantie bi asabre no wode ondi abeto dwa sese wo kanipa makomako du ya wo mo ache wo mu na o kye se ba ko efe ne se kwabena owusu ansa de wo mo hwehwe ne den wode ne ho akanwura na so se ne posifo bo ho mode no dan ya wo mo ensa ebetimi aso mu ena no pa ya o my Ghana post headquarters ena wode sa amrantie ebepie ya sese no wode won eba begina mra no na emra no ene won adi IGP nsam a wode tu dwa no bi enie.
To share with you a major massive breakthrough in the service has made in our fight against violent crimes, specifically armed robbery. The operation over the past year, the service recorded a number of robberies targeting financial institutions, particularly rural banks. My team and I, after analyzing these robberies, observed a similar pattern. We immediately got to work. After painstaking investigations, working with credible informants, analyzing available data, surveillance across several regions, we launched a targeted operation to arrest these criminal elements. This operation took us to the Ahafo, the Western, the Central, Eastern, and Ashanti region. I'm delighted to announce that we have successfully dismantled the gang behind all these robberies. So far, we have successfully arrested 10 suspects. 3 other suspects were shot dead in the course of the operation during a shootout with the police.
Onumonyamfo Christian Tete Yohonu IGP ena de shema yatene nke nipa du ena wo mache wo mu abre ya na posifo ye operations no makoma miensa ya wo ya kromfo posifo bo mu tu ekun wo mesanse wo mo to a na posifo ato wo mo to a na posifo ato ya wo mo so bo ho modern sese no de wo hwese akromfo remfo yi no wo betimi atu wo mu asesa na no achi no CID boss ye Lydia Yako Donko woni so de tudwa social operations ya aposifo no ye no a wo mo gi atu makomako be ye edunsia ewom na saa atu dunsia no na ebi ye aposifo tuo ya wani aposifo bia ye bo mu tuo ku wo mo mmiri bia atwamu wo mo atu ne kodi saa konferenfo yi ho nsem so what did you just say?
On the 10th of April 2025 at about 1 a.m., this gang attacked and robbed the Adansi Rural Bank at Fomina and made away with an undisclosed amount of money and 2 pump-action guns belonging to the security men on duty. The gang scaled the bank wall, tied up the security men, and cut the security door with an industrial electric cutting machine before gaining access into the bank's vaults. On 23rd April 2025 at 4 a.m., the same gang armed with pump-action guns attacked and robbed the Lower Pra Rural Bank at Takrade in Chaban. The robbers broke into the bank and used an industrial electric cutter to cut the bank's vaults and made away with the money in the vaults. In addition, investigation has been able to confirm that some of the suspects were present at the various crime scenes around the time these robberies occurred. Also, during an identification parade, some of the suspects were positively identified by some victims of the robbery. Additionally, some of the exhibits, including the AK-47 rifles, some of the pump-action guns, and mobile phones have also been positively identified. Investigation is still ongoing. All the suspects are in custody and will be put before court while efforts are intensified to get those at large arrested.
Enti wey CID boss no Lydia Yako Donko and Adishmama Yatini Kenti Wenya na montu ahodo bia posifo de egu akwamu atu ahodo wo mo akwagene adehye bia omkobo krono wo banks ahodo bi emo na sabre wo ensa aso mo pachi yanto aso na yakuanim ewo ensa froma enei na se eye owura bi onim mrapa mranim ni papa tatahwe nya asem ko no aso mre bi atwam no na ono eye mra hye bedwani ewo Tamale Central na fenso ye kane so afo na ohwe nsase ehonsam so ewo oman gane mu ono abo eye ni safuseni ade atodwa se ne ni sa wo hwe sadia gana mampanyi abo eye justice bafoboni din so no enko na ese mpanyimfo enso so no so na ese omo se dwuma betimi ayo se no amakra se mampanyi ebo din se sanse sawhwa na se opanyi wakodare pa ewo eye emberanima anya asem kuma oda sansem nyina di wombra na one eye piesie okra kasa ewo dwaba se dwumadie no eso
Bafo Bome now acting chief executive and now his excellency John his excellency John Dramani Mahama now acting chief executive a constitution no acting chief executive because now Onuno Oye the most senior justice on the bench at the Supreme Court. In the constitutional year, Justice Bafo Bome as the acting chief executive, chief justice of the Republic of Ghana, consequent upon the suspension of Justice Tokun. Adede John Dramani Mahama is brought clarity and finality, a level of certainty to the judiciary. Now, Justice Bafo Bome, they are nominated for the consideration of the Council of State to take the position of Chief Justice. So that is the act. I think John Dramani Mahama, and they are nominated as the Chief Justice for the Republic of Ghana. Justice Bafo Bome echoes judiciary chair. Apart from one case that I appeared before him, I've only read about him and looked at him from afar. Now, Justice Bafo Bome has more than 30 years experience on the bench.
Now we ayan sama je honorable Inisa Fuseni editudwa for Justice Bafo Bome yaboni din say yenhwe nso no so yantoto na no na say adwuma no betimi emfama na okirem say owo asuahuna obetimi aboa na atembo adwuma no so no etimi akoso wo mangane mu Yetwa Kasiebo ne so na yenko PM ewo University of Cape Coast esanse enei wubo ramu ewo suapon no emu a menteme ho ase kase bi pa na ama ne homene so ewo hom ni nyinanam se nanu ada na JTech fo eye Ghana Tertiary Education Commission wo modin krata bi ebetu dwa ya no na ye bobo so me ne da neto so edunkron ya na wo mo hire se vice-chancellor Edema University of Cape Coast Professor Johnson Buampon onsi fom ni nyina ne se ebraso se ewo se wokọ na homegye mu esan se wonum kirebu a wo hwe oman Ghana amamra no emu o se de eka article no eye 1991 anase article 119 no 199 clause 1 no eye 1992 constitution no emu a ewo se udru ufie eye umfie aduosia no eso a wukofie se retirement anase wokọ wa homegye mu esan se braso ewo se wokọ ema ofoforo eba be hya nan na JTech for chese Professor Yeye Johnson Buampoin watena hono a wadi frisha porepore aduosia no nanso ompese obekọ eti wo mo hye se wonsi fom enu akikura no wo mo san agina so kire se papa no wo se wonsi fom de a ene University of Cape Coast fo eniema na kade bi ehia wo mo a ebeboa ma wodwubadie atimi akonkan no enya de a JTech fo de wonsa be hya se ade amom ebi ti se akatua ho nsem accreditation ho nsem ene research allowances ho nsem nyina no
wɔn JTech fo nya de a wɔn do wɔn sa be hyase e de ama sa asuapon yi se kopem se papa no wɔbɛkɔ efie se retirement age no aso na sa ansɛm we ebeto odwa no na senior lecturer was sign vice dean faculty of law University of Cape Coast Dr. Elijah Tukwariba yin wɔde akɔdan court se wɔnte ne ho ase e wɔ saa na monto ya JTech fo etuo ehum wɔn kyerɛ mu se wo hwɛ kwan ya JTech fo enam so a enye ne kwan eno no esan se wɔyɛ se papa no enkofie no wasa akɔfa owura bia no wɔyɛ Professor Dennis Ahito se wɔmra mehya na nan papa ne se dabi da enya de a wɔbɛte ne ho e wɔ saa kwan no so esan se anamonto we no wo de fa emramu a wo kyerɛ mu a enye ne kwan kra no no ne titiri kra ne se wɔn mo ahyɛ se University of Cape Coast fo eniama na akade bi ehia wɔn mo a ebeboa amasuapon no wɔn mo asimi atumpon no JTech fo se wɔn ayi wɔn nsa efrasie no papa ne se dabi se wɔn yɛ ne saa do a emmoa amasuapon no wɔn dwumadi ahodo no entimi enkonkan entiadimanimu ya wɔde akɔdan court ya wo hwɛ se anamon a JTech fo tuo no court no emongu baabi kura de edikan ne se enkrata ya omode ba ya wo mo hye Professor Johnson Buampon se won kofie no court no hwe se obebo sa enkrata no edi agu baabi ebio so no Professor Dennis Ahito ya wapa no se wo mra mehye nanan no papa no so won mo no enkoto baabi kura ena de edi ho bio so no akade ne niam ahodo e wo se JTech fo ye edi boa University of Cape Coast na eboama wonjumadi atimi konkan a wo mo kire se wo mo etwe wo sa edi afrase no ebi ti se book and research allowance ene akatua ho nsem ene accreditation ho nsem a wo mo kyese wo mfa won sa enhyase emfa mo nyina no court ne hwe se obebo sa nsem no nyina aguo na vice-chancellor ya wose won kofie no won san emeto so na woni ne dwuma se de se ene se de fata ene ukopie mu ewo high court a eno ewo Cape Coast a asem no eda hodmo a empanifo guso a wo mo etutu ne srani abasa na nam so ema University of Cape Coast ya governing council no wo mo so wo mo etu ho anamon se ne be ya asemu ya beda bedwasrede ya wo mututu ne srani abasa JTech fonto ho ase na nam so ya wo mo kyese wo vice chancellor enkonko tena fie no court ebetimi ahwe na watena asem no so enti se ye hwedi mu se asem ya senior lecturer yi ye wode akwakodan court no court be frasem no na watena so na waka na ye hunu de etire ebekwa kwowie ye so ye ni egusu edi ekire de court no ebeka afa ho bia no ye de emunsem eba besom ya hwefo eni yetiefo ya yedomo
Nansanso enko UN General Assembly diato so eye aduwatwe emu esane dwumadi pompon sintini enamsaye so emma se eye first ladies ahodo a ewebimemu ekwakohia na efe dwumadi esuronko a efa mba ho so no omatimi ede ahye so na abo sebeye na dwumadi de betimi aka so na wo hwa na se eye dwumadi no Organization of Africa First Ladies Development omo na se esi omsere so yenko na se de dwumadi na esi kwa nyina no yemfa ho nsam no so bi emamu
noticed about OAFLAD, which I think many organizations need to learn from, is that the presidencies in OAFLAD have always had support of the following president. So you know what they say about leadership. My predecessor is an idiot and my successor is a traitor. That's not what happens in OAFLAD. We have built on each presidency. And OAFLAD has really benefited from strong presidencies. And I look at my First Lady of Ghana. She's a new old First Lady. She was around for 4 years. In her last year, she was the president of OAFLAD. And I'm speaking to the power of impact because she left about 6 months before her term as president ended, but her work didn't stop. It continued, which speaks to the strength of the leadership, but also speaks to how OAFLAD kind of continues on what the first one did. And I saw a lot. I saw that in Fatima's speech as well. The first thing that leaders do is they dismantle whatever their predecessor did because the predecessor is an idiot. And I can see Fatima is building on the successes of We Are Equal. And I think that's the first and key lesson. Don't break what was already built. It's strong. Build onto it. And what I saw today at this launch, this was a very strong launch. And I just want to congratulate the president of OAFLAD,
ani amuti no ayeme Monica no kopiemu e wona mebia na se amampanyi ire odima kwetene pa na se nsem no waworesa no sa ade aguho amaye no
yet one some so na yakopie mo mrashibedwani ojamade hye ya wo ewo Upper Dentra East Masino emo ye lawyer Emilia Ankoma enei wa kire ho ehu hia se ne manfo ya wo ewo ne pesua so no wo benya nsu papa ani nsu krogen anom wo se be America kranie no kame se enso ho yakwatwe pa de ama ne manfo eno nam so amas enei wo de aso akobo fom a mechanized boho yibi wo ba besie de ama adehye bi a wo ewo nkrotua bi te se dentra chechere na afenso dentra insensiamu se ne be ya o manfo no ebenya ensu papa anom wo de nsam yi eto yamane bofo anim
temporary issue enya dia ebetimi solve challenges na ewo krom ha no na ya se ekura ti sei ye betrema na wotwe baako na wotwe mienu yenya ensuo eti we no ya dia ye de ba be abeye stop gap what you say be sure baby now say no ensuo ma me fie na me fa me bucket kra me na take akra menya ensuo but we is emma solve water problem na wachichwa water problem we join there nananum ya we mesum ya we community water ya we ekwe be fa so e benya lasting solution but we need there say be ya be ma ye man for ye ho be high kakra say be we ni say ensuo ma ufie kra na wo fa bucket a baby how be kono wo benya ensuo
ya Emilia Ankoma na yatini nkene no achi no na ohempo ya wono ewo dencha chechere na kwame nipa ya otoso mienu wone assembly member ya wono ewo chechere is onmonyamfo kwabena boaten wo mo edi aseda PSC aseda wampam aseda mu rempemasi edodi komra shebe koma amra shebe dwani se ewatu anamo bia etiseye
ona boase ene MC medana se ona bu Emilia Ankoma de onu ankasa ni dia ankasa ene me a ndine se wo so wo boa na kuro ya fananto ma pa afra
nsusam eyade a ahuhia ya chichire kuro mu ya pa nti se ne MP lawyer Emilia Ankoma aye adom na so odi nsuo brenya mesoman a asamre ma isen we se so mutwe ni disem kase de mayen
we chechere hene na kwame kumnipa na se na kwame nipa ya otoso mienu wone na assembly member na yete wono enken
ya bochi na yako hafumantem no emu na ekopia odi ababetodwa se ahyenkafo to de bi omochiro pa anse bia driving license ni ade no omonsa atimi akebe nam sayo so mesom de adesrede ato oswofo hwemantem no anim ma wahwombo so behwe na enche bia no DVL se eye atena kase pa no ombe kukuru bi ade esiwo ama se beye na ahyenkafo no omo betimi ato omo na nsemi no so honorable Charity Gardner ono na oda na die
People see benya license at your mama, I just a moko baby na mako pray. Moto mo ni chu okada. Process kwa mo fashion na no see at the fufu. It's another madam ye jina ha kase. Answer na fu e be kwa wie ye no ni e DVL e dia best certificate of. Ama mo so mo atom. Said e be ya mo person nya license ya mo nkonko bre. E mo ye district die. Ye we so ye the passport office ye the bago so. Ya mfoka enkosunyane abusafo mesimi nya hwekura kakra ya de beka sa charity ba ya oni ni timbe ya de boa ye de nyame adom ni mpa bo ye be ya ne de abo
na we ayansemo honorable Charity Gardner editu dwanu achi no Dr. Ebenezer Kwaku Ado edise ono so aya emrahye bedwani ewo asutifi atifi mansinu ensu emu editu dwa na ochiremisa wohwa na sempanyimfo nyina no ombeka banchirimu ahwe se be na mpuntu so no ebekoso ewo hafo ne mpatemu
peste ye bibima ne dance wo asutifi north anonte yensu sem ya kwansem ya hunidi sem de mu bi wa sutifi north da no enche mu be hu bi na megina han ma hya mo bo se ya ma me mu amode aduane firi go mu eba Kenya ase beton enkopem se emfie na ya amode ahya yen san be so no Kenya ase number 2 eko go mu no ne agusukota ya tu anama na du akire enti ye bo hya me de hya mo
na we no aye Dr. Ebenezer Kwaku Ado ono na yatini nkin
Yanko PMO Ewo Tema West Mansino Emwenene, one more inauguration service from Kodiama, where Yadisha ya one more equa gentity, first badge no, one more Timiako Famua, Masese no, training in the Abuapa, one more community police assistant for Ebim, and a Bionso fire service assistant no. Now, on for Alhaji Mahmoud Judah, only director of Youth Employment Agency, Ewo Enkramantami Emo, one TV XYZ Kasiebo Kasa, Breya Najumedino.
Fire, their major work is to go to the grounds to educate the people for safety, to prevent safety, fire and other things. That is what they are supposed to do. Sometimes they have to be at the station to help the fire personnel. But the main thing I want them to education, because prevention is better than cure. You get it. And then the CPA, they are also to combat such crimes. You've heard the police commander say that they are short of men. So when they act to them, wherever there's a crime, and they are living with the people. So definitely there will be a lot of information that can pick and go and tell the commanders, and for us to freeze them out and make sure that here is incident free. Because the people are complaining when the market room are going to Omoko Juma, Omoko market, and Anaju, they say dawn in the night, they harass them, take their phones, which is very bad. But if they are part of them, they'll be able to fuse out those information. And then the women who are for fire and the men who are for fire, they also go and tell the people who are in the kiosks in the factories that if you leave your gadget this way, this will happen. So constant education gives them broad knowledge for them to be careful with what they are doing.
Nanwachino and a Mansi Cratch Penny ya wano ewo Tema West Mansino emu wodbonyam for Lord Week Totime wano editu jache se training ya adishe afamwono babe buapa mabambo munsem etimi ayrekete.
Outdooring and an inauguration of community police assistants and fire service assistants. Over the past few weeks, Omako training both the police assistants and the fire service assistants. All they need to know. The actual mono, Omunshe no mundi enoso. Ma omunkonyen tra dia within ejumano. Ma omunko ye omo say omwano mu ye police for ana omwano mu ye fire service for. E wo so omunkan who say omushe ebimwase qualified police and qualified fire service and omunge dia yacho omuse omunya no.
Eti wei ayabana musini awo Tema West Mansino emo ena yate nensem yi. Na ya fasida ama abuafo esoye mu awie na Kasiebo no ya debi ebramo ya fasida ni bi ema Jante step madake me pacho ya bia ya akwakoto nkwada nuoma na ma akwada no ho efe semba na se mema ni nyina benyo mu nuoma ewo saso na wope bicycle ne tricycles na benya bi ewo baby skirt baby seat na fe baby walkers ni nyina kama pa ne boso ewo fam saso na diapers ne breast pump menya bi aton kwada nduane modern akonti esre batem bia foni achire Jante step madake na kwato ne penny bi sesi akwada no na onye kama owo in Christ Winters Road Obenpo Gas Furniture oni Absa Bank no edi animhwe frɛ no 0244238477 na ise bibia pebia no omunye bi emfa emausa so na mensa ka dwumadie no mepacho da so cha de kasepa enti wo ye bema wo yo ba mepacho phone ko ada modern ase mensa ka osubeni sa group fa phone na wadala *274# *274# na ise we choose Power FM sika no chese wo so betimi enya bi wo betwa 55 series equal 10 series na ise buburija ye nche na wo so chefe wo no wonsa enke 50,000 Ghana cedis and ise omo che sika be fie this week into modern ase wo so chefe wo no wonsa betimi aka na aboa kama pa sa so na ye kai eye tiefo nyina ase dwumadie kasia eye World Prayer Conference Ghana 2025 no eno so ekoso na we eye Christ Ambassadors for Nation Ministry and afi Jubilee International Church and afi ministries no na akabmo mo ye World Prayer Conference Ghana 2025 no and into omoto nsa dia afre nyina ase embra na yemfie hunjim dwumadie no ehya ase endre to asokopum
bobosim deto so eye aduonu enson dwumade ni beko so ewo Jubilee International Church eye Eagles Nest Chapel so for Bishop Bob eye Haxon so it is edan no se ben eye Pig Farm Nkranheya na ohwe minister sebetonyom ewo Asena na ise Dr. eye Folasadi F eye Adewoye no oye camp president so and Bishop Dr. Mrs. Doris eye Akumia and so eye presiding bishop ewo eye Jubilee International Church and Ministries no emu so and Bishop ni Anku Odoi oye resident bishop ewo Jubilee International Church Eagles Nest emu so and Apostle Samuel Tunji Ayini and so ewo eye CAC Vineyard of Comfort New Jersey America memo ni nyina no o mabeboa na dwumedi no maichem afa no edikan no nopa no otwe na afa nwumre nso no nsia pepe no mahya ase ni bebre na no ebeto nwom ewa ase Eagles Nest Kwa efe Cam Kwa na afa MP Nation enso chese watonsa edi afre na oba beto nwom ewo dwumedi na ase ntibomode ese oso beko na ese mpabo je ebeko so no so chefe wu no wonsa entimi enka ye gina we so na yetwie ho sema ye ba de aka ye de atoa so amamo.
The National Petroleum Authority hereby cautions persons engaged in illicit storage and trading of petroleum products to comply with the regulatory requirements to operate in the downstream petroleum industry. The NPA Act clearly stipulates that no individual shall engage in any commercial activity related to the importation, exportation, re-exportation, shipment, transportation, processing, refining, storage, distribution, marketing, or sale of petroleum products in the downstream industry without first obtaining a license from the NPA board. Failure to secure the necessary license and properly regularize operations will result in confiscation of petroleum products, prosecution under the law, and decommissioning of facility. For more information, contact the National Petroleum Authority on 0302 550 380. You can also visit our head office located at Jolu of the N1 Highway or any of our regional offices.
Na ede na ya obayi a oda former son ye funu mu
Oh Mr. Entry also yare ya titi bi ben fie pi nanso ne yam nyono da se me chew no ahodo amato a me hunu hwe ya ebe ya nwanwa
menyi ni se what also tamfo Haxa capsules any Haxa mixture yanum bom kotia also no bia ma no anom anka ne ho ato no dadaada also dro de eno ani Haxa capsules any Haxa mixture
ankom ni nchiremu
also ye kura eto ye funu ene ensunu mu etumi a wo ye funu ekeka wa wogire ho a enyi also etumi ema wo ye cheko ebra wadidi awie so how eye also de a compare Haxa capsules any Haxa mixture nanum bom na ho ebeto
pedudu atu a ko okanshi drug lane Kumasi Dani Herbal Takradi AA Mensa Anafre 02038228855 Apefo abatan ya woma won mofra no fo ene mofra woni mfie dumienu enka ho Haxa capsules ene ne mixture
all satan for ade age adwade nkratoyi yi atom
Yademase ama munyina kwaba samutwani akwaje aboafo enkrato na yeto aso yemfa amanebo we emfa mbo etiefo nyanyina nsa posifo ede tudwa se eye abusion from eye wachanti a window sadek omode abedan aposifo so mo bebi onya mfirihia eye enum se abofra na yira na se bosumi ade to so aduono no na akwada we ayira ye no mchem so mja abofra no wo fie na se akwada no odemu di agrobi nim de ba ya prekope akwada no apia bepumene omo apena pa jese omuhu akwada no nti omo sere se abofra abia ya wayira no se yenyina ye omo mboa se be na iso omo ba no omo nsa betimi aka no wanya mfirihia no eye enum pepepe se abofra wayira wayera pante omo sese wo hia kwada yi a waye tu yi wo TV so said ya ni phone de wo hia ne bebia mpacho wayera modiana faniko police station bia ben wo na se eye abusua no nso no ensanka mu kirema na se abusua ewo eye agbogoroshi eho na se omo wa akwada no ayera telephone number betimi afrom ewo so no eye 0244 182007 0244182007 wofra bebi abusie wo bioma baba ja kwada no na ise omo adawase papa nti yesere na yenye ne sa emfa ema abusua ne so mo ba ise wayire no ise obetimi ehu wo mu biom betimi hu akwada ne biom nti yesere bebi a eye wachanti bebi a wo hye bia so modern ase obema abusua hu na ise omonso omoni abre papa omo hwe nti ne sa famo mo adofo so amohwe na muhu akode ya yanyambo asase beye na abusua no so ensa betimi aka eyo omoba saso na mega cash lucky boss no me patro da so agina ne nanso ya eche nkrofo ade ne ya ne so befa phone na dale *426*5# na se be bie box mako nsia maw na chese eno no wa choose dia pa bie sika wase dia befa bia na se no so no etimi ekoyie pa e ma dodo na nya sikei ewo mu na watwetwem oso betimi anya bisa enti fa phone no dale *426*5# obetwa 5 series eko na so watimi enya eye achedie bumbum wom na etimi aboa yepa ne krakra ye so no na se eye esien abusua edeto etiefo nyina nim se eye omodoba omunua ba omubibi maami Sofia esien se wakanchene egu ye maami Sofia eye esien adan benkum eso nyamfrihia no eye adiokono ansatwedi ampon etonsa ede afrena sede abusua aye eyi nhyehyei eni omse nyankopon eye adoma memeda September bosum da to so aduonu enson 27 September abusua so metena se ewo Prince Town eye Azim Kwantempon no eso ewo atoye mantem eho na eso meye eyi ne bibiom de no beto mpem ewo ho na kyese nyankopon eye adoma so mo aye nhyehyei sede sefata no omakata na chikura no omkyerem se twedi ampon eye adom nyame enya mfrihia eye aduokunu ntino abusua sa hofa no eye tuntum ani fita black and white and eso ombehye edanom na inase som no so no omobeye ewo eye kwasida September bosum leto aduonu enwotwe enombeye ewo Methodist asafo ewo Prince Town ewo eye Axim Kwantempon no so honoma ose eye off Axim Road eho enebeko dress code no eye all white kwasida ndi eye all white inti omoto nsa dia frɛ abusua ne adofo nyina sɛ ye maame eye Sofia esiena wotwe nani ahwɛ ban no yemfo do embo odomu na omonkata nachi sɛdia ɛsɛ efata
Yeni Kasiebo ni nyina si asedan koma news team ni nyina amapoma checheku akra Kofi Dako Ella Opoku Fred Green Kofi Abrantie eni news team no wo mo eboa yokwa MC anso so director Ralph Peter Cranton Nana Kisi ene bio Emmanuel Nete wonso eboa ye pa camera so eye really ene bio nso so no edi ene Francis ena Elizabeth Tego enso esiesie ye ne eje pene esomwo memidin da jema akosia oforiwa amanfo mene
akuya krantama
yada mu nyina se amammo ene hwe ene tie